violence and other kind of violence.
Guess what? I could be at work, at school, in my car, and I can still get shot by the police. But I can get shot anywhere.
So it is what it is.
What's good, cyberspace? It's the Black Gen Z Mindset. Make sure you go ahead and like, comment, share, subscribe, and let's get into the video.
Right and early. So without further ado, going to bring up the man of the hour, Black Gen Z Mindset. What's going on? Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. You're welcome. I should have asked you this in the back because I just call you by your YouTube channel. Is there a name that you go by or just calling you Black Gen Z? Is that cool?
You can call me Gen Z, Black Gen Z, Gen Quavius, either one.
Gen Quavius.
Yeah.
That's funny. That's funny. But all right, cool. But no, welcome. I'm laughing at that Gen Quavius. No, but welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Glad to have you in here. Like I said before, man, you came on my show the other day and you was making a lot of sense and was saying some good things. And just the name of your channel alone, that's some pretty good branding. It automatically makes me want to pick your mind a little bit in the Black Gen Z mindset. So give us the genesis and backstory of that and what ultimately, prompted you to be here on YouTube. Give a little bit of your personal background and ultimately lead it up to what got you on YouTube doing the kind of content that you do.
Okay, so my name is Black Gen Z Mindset. I am from Atlanta, Georgia. I graduated from the University of Georgia where I played football. And after that, I, started a couple of businesses here in Atlanta, in the metro Atlanta area. And, after that, had some free time. So I started to look into this YouTube stuff, started looking at different content creators that I've done collabs with in the past. And with that, I just kind of dove into it, kind of got my footing, and I started making my own content. So I started off with a channel called Quarantino to God. And then I started a channel called Reclaim Your Throne, which is more like fitness, relationship based. And then I started a channel called Black Gen Z Mindset, which is more political and catered to crime specifically in the community or the Black community.
You said something that jumped out to me. You said you started a few business and then you got some free time. How does that work? People don't start businesses and get free time.
Well, yeah. So I started a real estate investment company, and that did pretty well. Was able to acquire a couple, well, not even a couple, more than a couple different properties and have passive income coming from those. And then I also started a car rental business in Atlanta where I have a guy who is basically managing my vehicles. And so that gave me a lot of free time. And, a lot of the staff that I have, I pretty much hired out. So I don't have to do any intensive physical labor within my businesses. So yeah, that freed me up a lot of time.
Man, that is beautiful. I'll be talking about it a lot on this show. A lot of people, in the Black community, we got a lot of solopreneurs. I'm technically one. I'm one of them. that don't never get from a one-man show to an actual vertical business. And so for you at a young age because I read between the lines real good because you just threw that out there. Like I started some businesses and then I got some free time. Like, hold up. But I said either the businesses failed or they did really well, one or the other.
Right.
So that was initially right where I went with that. But yeah, no, that's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. And how old are you?
I'm 27.
27. Okay. Okay. When do Gen Z start? Gen Z.
I believe it starts in 1995 to. I mean, there's a few different joints, but I think it starts like 1995, maybe 2000s. I think there's some overlap too.
Okay, cool. Hey man, that's amazing. I do definitely applaud that because we we be trying to LLC our way to some generational wealth with individual solopreneur startups and don't understand that businesses are supposed to be vertical, you know. We don't never do it right, but it's not easy though. It's legitimately not easy. You gotta be pretty good, pretty knowledgeable, pretty smart, know what the hell you're doing. So yeah, kudos to you for that. All right, so tell me again, what's your channel about before we all the way get into it? Let me hear that again.
Okay, yeah. So my channel is my Black Gen Z Mindset channel specifically is about crime in the Black community. I cover crimes from Atlanta to New Orleans to Detroit to New York City, Los Angeles. And I really just focus on what's going on in our demographic. And, you know, I pretty much expose what's going on because I think that it is the largest story in America, the largest untold story in America, and that is Black on Black crime.
Yeah. And why do you think that is? And this is part of where some of the generational differences is, because I be having a lot of old people on my show. You know, they be saying, you probably heard the term. You know, they always say in these spaces, them old niggas. Mm-hmm. I've had a lot of them on my show, and they got a whole different take on that crime. Mm-hmm. What is your general take on it? All the crime that's happening in the Black community that some people deny, some people say it's not happening. What's your take on it, and what's going on there? Why is it happening?
Okay, so from my take, I think crime has been a big issue in the Black community, you know, since the early 20th century. But I think it's kind of escalated and it's been exploited by, you know, Democratic political elites. Just speaking about these last couple of years is when I really heavily gotten into it. After the riots from, you know, the killing of George Floyd, things have gotten a lot worse. You see statistics like crime increasing by 65% in Atlanta, homicides increasing by 30-40% in Philadelphia. New Orleans is now being deemed the murder capital, where you have the highest per capita murder rate in the United States in New Orleans. Places like St. Louis, you know, areas like that are suffering as well. I think there was a study that came out just recently saying that St. Louis was one of the most unsafe cities, the number one unsafe city in the United States. And, you know, they used to phrase it the most dangerous city in the United States. But since, you know, the wokeness has started, they say, oh, the most unsafe city in the United States. So I think the cause of the crime has to do with a few things. The culture, for sure. Obviously, hip hop influence is very instrumental in agitating the crime. I'm not going to say it's the direct cause. I would say single mother households is another, you know, direct correlation to why we see this influx in crime in the Black community as well. As you guys probably already know, that 75% of Black people are being raised in single parent households. So that's a big issue. And then I also think that it is somewhat being enabled by criminal justice reform agendas, bail reform agendas. I don't know if you're familiar with what's going on in Illinois, where they have the Safety Act, where they're pretty much eliminating cash bail for offenses like second-degree murder, robbery, armed robbery, carjacking, things like that. So the reformative nature of the quote-unquote systematically racist criminal justice system is another reason why the crime is so bad and so rampant, because what's happening is you have a lot of people who were freed during the pandemonium. So when the overall
the pandemonium,
like
a way of saying
the pandemic. I don't want to get the channel flagged or anything like that. Yeah, but so I do use like some of these code words.
I do too. I hadn't heard that one.
yeah. But that's the one I use, the pandemonium, and I think that since then, they let a lot of criminals out. As a matter of fact, in Los Angeles, there was a plan. I think it was a 3-year projection plan where they were going to let 60,000 criminals out of the prisons in California. Also, with the backed up courts, has caused an issue to where criminals were not able to get a fair and speedy trial. Emphasis on speedy. So a lot of times these guys are arrested and they're released, and they're continually arrested again and again and again until they commit a even grander offense. So I think it starts off like that. I think that a lot of these young guys understand that there are no real consequences. There was also a change and this was, I think in the 70s, there was a change in the child or juvenile offenses, where a lot of these juveniles are being put on game by some of the OGs that, hey, you can commit a crime, you can even, commit murder, and you'll be out by the time you're 21. So that's happening a lot as well. So you have juvenile offenders who are, going through the system, and they're fighting all throughout their time, and they're not really being reformative. They're not really, I guess, seeking change, and they're recidivating. Frequently, the recidivism rate is 85%. So I think that, there's a lot of issues, and it's being exacerbated by this push and this wave for criminal justice reform and trying to make the system, quote unquote, fair, when in all actuality, the system has been pretty fair for a minute. So.
Ooh, we're going to get into that, whether or not that system been fair. Now, see, I get the feeling that most Gen Zs, my assumption is that you're in the minority. The way that you think about that, like, you just closed it out by saying the system, for the most part, is fair. You spoke about it from the perspective of, holding criminals more accountable, even the black ones, hold them accountable.
Yes.
Don't do things, don't be lenient or figure out this way or that way to get them off or get them back out on the streets, and then they commit a bigger crime. I get the feeling that most Gen Zs, with all the wokeness that's going on, I get the feeling that you get pushback from your brethren on that one. Yay or nay?
A lot of the pushback is online, not so much in person. I think that people have been, I won't necessarily say radicalized, but they have been accustomed to a certain train of thought, especially due to online content creators who really aren't seeing the grasp of the issue here. And that issue is that the more lenient you are on criminals, the higher the crime rates are going to inevitably go. So, I do get a lot of pushback from my age demographic online. But when I talk about these things in person and I'm able to articulate my points in, a respectable manner, then people pretty much see eye to eye with me. But the issue is that underlying programming, that leftist programming to be, victimize yourself, especially in the Black community. We have a lot of self-victimization. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that certain individuals have not been victims of the system and whatnot, but I'm just saying in general, we've been taught to self-victimize. And I think that's a limiting mindset to our overall progression, especially when it comes to these issues like crime. As you can see, with these different rappers being killed, you have a lot of people who are still holding fast to the don't say nothing, let the police do their job. This is what they're supposed to do. Don't try and give no information. Don't try and lead to justice. And then we have this fallacy that street justice is going to be enacted, and the guys who did this, they're going to pay in the streets. And that couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah, no doubt. What's your overall take, though, on this wokeness? Because I think, let me start here. Do you think that Gen Zs are in position to ultimately do better than the millennials, the Gen X, and a lot of people take a crap on the boomers around here? Do you think the Gen Zs are in position to actually do the black Gen Zs? Are they in position to actually do better than the generations before them? Do you think they will?
No.
Oh, why not?
Because some of the reasons why I stated before, I think that self-victimization is a huge limiting factor to the mentality of specifically Black Gen Zs. And if you look at the crime data, crime statistics, specifically in Atlanta, you see that a lot of these criminals are actually very young. So, a lot of them are inhibiting their own growth or furtherment in life by simply committing crimes. We have a super high unemployment or underemployment rate when it comes to young Black men. I think between the ages of 16 and 21, it's like 24%. And then you get to that 21 to 24 range, it's like 28%. So it seems like it's only increasing the older our generation is getting. So I think that's a huge issue as well. Also, when you look at the voting polls from 2020, you see that 65% of Gen Zers voted for Biden. And I think a large portion of that were,
say that again. Hold on. What percentage voted for Biden?
65%. And I think a large portion of that were young Black men and women who contributed to that. And then now we see the fallout of the Biden presidency as we are entering recession and, quite possibly depression economically. And then, the withdrawal from Afghanistan was a disaster. The aid that we're sending to the Ukraine, absolutely another disaster, being involved in a proxy war with Russia. So I think that a lot of our generation is misguided by social media, specifically Twitter was a main factor in, I guess you can say, quote unquote, swaying the election, general opinion when it comes to politics. Also Instagram, you see pages like the Shade Room, Spiritual Word, Baller Alert. And if you read those comments when it comes to a political discussion, I would say 99% of them are leftists, and they get millions of views, millions of likes, millions of comments on a weekly basis. And the demographic ranges, broadly, but most of it is a young demographic. So when I look into those comments and when I see the overall sentiment of the diaspora, then I say to myself, we're doomed.
Damn. I in my mind, I thought you were going to give us a little hopium. you just came on here with on some let it burn shit, and I just like I thought this was going to be a little more hopeful.
Well, I'm hopeful for those who want to come over and watch my channel and kind of gain some real perspective and some authentic, realistic perspective on what's going on in the community. But then I also get, dissenters on my channel who are saying, oh, you hate yourself because you're covering this content and, your mama's Black and, oh, you must hate Black men and all this kind of stuff. And I didn't know holding criminals accountable meant that you hated yourself. So the issue is that I think this mindset is extremely pervasive throughout the community, and I don't think that it's going to be an overnight change, and I don't think that it's getting better. It's actually getting worse. As a matter of fact, if you like go around and ask people, and I know this is controversial as well, but if you go around and ask people about Black Lives Matter, the overall sentiment is still positive, even with all the corruption, even with all the exposure, even with the mismanagement of funds, even though Black Lives Matter grassroots is involved in a lawsuit against Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation. There's infighting, it's Black on Black lawsuits involved in there, but there's still there's still the overall sentiment is positive when it comes to Black Lives Matter and the Black community. And that is what kind of turns me to that no solutions route, which, you know, obviously I'm presenting solutions on my channel, but I think that it's very hard to kind of change this mindset and get people to wake up to what's actually going on and understand that we as a community are being pitted against each other and voices of truth are being suppressed, like you see what's happening to Kanye West and Kyrie Irving.
Yeah, no doubt. It sounds like you're going more so with the strategy of, and I do that to some degree, just shine a glaring, unavoidable spotlight on this thing that is the problem, so people can't keep ignoring it and sweeping it under the rug or pretending it don't exist or trying to make some excuses about it. No, put a big spotlight on it. Put a big spotlight on it. Yeah, no doubt. But as you see what RM has right there in the chat room, y'all, if y'all unfamiliar with this brother, y'all, I can already read the comments. I can tell y'all already feeling. I can tell y'all already picking up what he laying down. So I can tell y'all already feeling him. So definitely go over there and subscribe to his channel. We've got some excellent content over there. So make sure y'all go and subscribe to him. Now, one thing that I do want to get into, because and now that I've picked your brain for about 20 minutes or so, I know you're going to disagree with this video. I already know you're going to disagree with this video. This came from the Black Excellence channel, and it says what we know about Black Gen Z. You know, proud, driven leaders, and all. You know, that's basically the gist of it. And yeah, so I thought this was on your channel, because when I type in your name, it's like the first thing it shows is 2 of your videos, and then like the third video it shows is this one. So I thought this was on your channel. So I was like, wait,
yeah, my channel is heavily censored. I actually just got off of a 7-day community guideline strike from YouTube because my content is heavily censored and they've deemed it heavily controversial. I oftentimes get notifications before my videos upload that say, hey, your channel or this video is going to be 18 and older, or hey, this video is not suitable for all viewers, and all this kind of stuff. So you might have some trouble finding my channel, but Bernard has done a great thing for me and posted the link to the channel in the title and the description box. So if you guys can't find it, it's right there.
Yep, definitely. Should be spamming out through the chat room all throughout the show, but worst come to worst, yeah, go to the description of the video, and he's added in the title, like he said, so y'all can just click on that and get to his channel. But real quick, before we get into this video, Jackie Jack is saying, does Black Gen Z see himself running for office? Yeah, you do sound kind of presidential. Do you see yourself running for office?
Not really, because I think I'm too controversial for public office. I think that a lot of my live streams can be taken out of content. I think that I put out so much content that it can be clipped up and misconstrued, and I think that it can be easily. Yeah, they're gonna kill your campaign before it get off the ground.
Yes. Just pull up some of your YouTube videos.
Yes.
Sir Tyson the building says, hearing a young bruh like this is encouraging. That's what I was thinking, but man, he's bringing the doom and gloom though. He's encouraging, but he's he got about as much faith in everybody else as we do. But anyway, he said, love his thoughts on many having a shortened attention span, why many are not informed and easily swayed. I don't know if he's saying I love to hear your thoughts on that, but you can speak on that real quick before we get into this video.
Yeah, so I think that having a short attention span is a big issue. People will highlight one specific thing that an individual said and make that the expounding point that they take away from a whole 2, 3, maybe even 4-hour monologue. So I think that people don't go and seek full context of what individuals are saying. And I think that's a huge issue to the development of especially young Black men.
All right. And quick before we get into it, Sir Tice, thank you for that Cash App yesterday. I don't know if you sent it when the pre-record was going or when the premiere was going. I don't know when you sent the Cash App yesterday. I don't know. Maybe it was random. I have no idea. I just know I received the Cash App from you yesterday. So thanks, and I appreciate it. Thanks, I appreciate it. All right, shout out to Black Jack. Just subscribe. Yeah. Make sure y'all subscribe. But all right, let's go ahead and get into this. I don't remember all this slow jazz music coming in at the beginning.
Welcome to blackexcellence.com, the site where we share Black excellence, opulence, and affluence. Our mission is to inspire you as
Black Americans between the age.
All right, hold on.
These are the members of Black Gen Z. They are young Black Americans between the age of 9 and 24, meaning they were born somewhere between the years of 1996 and 2012 and are generally the children of Generation X. They are referred to sometimes as Zoomers, the internet generation, or sometimes the Centennials. When asked to describe themselves in 3 words, the common consensus was revealed to be conscious, innovative, and outspoken. There are over 9 million members of Black Generation Z, and they will be critical to shaping the future of this nation in a positive way. And as this new generation of Black Americans begin to take shape and move into adulthood, there's a mounting interest in their attitudes, behaviors, and lifestyle. This post-millennial generation is already the most radically and ethnically diverse generation there has ever been. And while most are still pursuing their K-12...
Wait, let me stop it right there, because I didn't even plan on talking about that. When they say the most radically or ethnically diverse generation, it'd be quite a bit of talk in this space. I'd say mostly people around my age talking about race or, what would you say your generation when it comes to race, interracial dating, mixing, the races just getting along? What's the general, and this is maybe an odd, too wide of a question, but best you can answer it. What's the general take on it? I get the feeling that y'all are on some completely different stuff than what everybody else is on and how y'all look at race.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that Gen Z is a lot more open to intermixing with other races. When he talks about diversity in Gen Z, if we're specifically talking about America, then a lot of that diversity has come by way of, open border policy, where you have, individuals from maybe third world countries, attached or unattached from the mainland of North America, coming in droves into the country. So I think, that is, a direct influence in the diversity of our generation. Also, like you said, intermingling, interracial relationships. And I think that overall as a generation, we are open to that, which, I don't really have a specific issue with that. I just think that sometimes when you do have like this diversity and all this kind of stuff, like it might be diversity in appearance, but a lot of times it's not diversity in thought, meaning that many minorities think the same way, vote the same way, lean the same way politically. So, the I guess the theories about open border policies is to quote unquote make America more diverse, but the underlying purpose, I think, is to build a voter block for a specific political party more than them wanting to see multiple different races flourish throughout this country.
Yep. You hit the nail on the head right there. And I just thought about this. I'm gonna pull up hold on a second. I'm about to pull up the thumbnail picture. This picture came directly from, oh no, where is it at now? This came directly from your YouTube channel, and it's basically you with some That's about. I can't see it because I got it blurred out, but it's like look like the fist back there with some red, black, green back to Africa. Like you like a young Gen Z black conservative hotep going on? Like what's going on? Like what's happening here? You hotepping, dog? What's up?
Yeah. So I'm not a hotep. I use that imagery to
I'm here on the corner of MLK and Medgar Evers, and it's a very tranquil scene compared to just a couple hours ago where a drive-by shooting just took place. Excuse me, I'm getting live updates as we speak. I've just been updated to the amount of casualties from this drive-by shooting, and I'm getting reports that 2 people were actually declared deceased and 27 others were shot and injured, but are in stable condition. And although we must pray for the families of the fallen, we must also praise God for the aim of the super gremlin. If you want to know more about the victims of this crime, make sure you add BGZM News 17 on Patreon at www.patreon.com/BlackGenZMindset. Also, don't forget to like the video, share the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and comment on the video to continue the discussion on how we can find solutions to all this gun violence in the streets. For more hard-hitting news coverage from the community, by the community, I'm Jenquavius Jackson, here live, reporting from Atlanta, Georgia, BGZM News 17.
And cut.
All right, dog. Let's get the out of here before these niggas come back.
Whoa. Yo. Ain't that nigga J?
Nah, that ain't me. That ain't me.
He just went live
that
with
ain't
that
me.
funky ass suit
That's
on.
that nigga. That's not me.
Hey, get that nigga.
Jenquavius Jackson, here live, reporting from Atlanta, Georgia. Pray for me.
kind of, I guess, bring solidarity so that when people get a first glance of my channel, they say, oh, okay, you know, Black Power. And then here's the truth. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So, you know, a lot of people have told me to take the Pan-African flag out of my bio and whatnot. And I'm not a Pan-Africanist. I don't believe necessarily that every Black American is from Africa. I mean, if you really look into the slave trade, there are many routes that different Negroes took to get to this country. There are lineages that can be traced back, their origins can be traced back to this land. So I'm not necessarily a person who's going to say, oh, we need to get people together and, you know, go populate Liberia or anything like that. I think that a lot of Pan-Africanists are absolutely grifters. I think that they are, you know, they're moving under the false doctrine of Marcus Garvey. And, you know, I think overall Pan-Africanists are, I'll say that Pan-Africanists are, the Pan-African movement is counterintuitive to the reparations movement and the movement for overall, overall, I guess, freedom, if you will, in America and our rights and ownership to this land.
Now, one thing that I don't mind, and this was sort of my thought when I saw that, I don't mind if Black conservatives who, you know, who are industrious, you know, business owners like yourself, who've accomplished something, and you reject many aspects of the victim narrative, of the wokeness, and call out that shit and criticize that. I'm a firm believer in you could still be that and then still have some pro-Blackness in you, in the sense that you want Black people to progress. So I would say people like you, and I'll put myself in that category, and like I would say we're truly the pro-Blacks.
Oh yeah,
I mean, that's how I've always looked at it. That's how I've always looked at it. So to some degree, the concept of pro-Blackness, I mean, it would take a concerted effort, but I wouldn't mind that if we kind of took that back.
Yeah,
and snatched it away from the people who like to just make excuses for Black dysfunction.
Yeah, not for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. And I think a lot of the confusion comes from, the Back to Africa movement and all this kind of stuff, because, you're basically, you're disregarding your own heritage and lineage that, quite possibly could be traced back to this country. Like, I know for a fact that my great grandmother was full-blooded Cherokee. And, a lot of people grew up, understanding that, hey, I may have some Indian in my blood. I may have some Indian in my family and whatnot. And I think that a lot of people are just kind of disregarding that fact and saying, oh, well, it must be Africa because the white man told us that all of us came from Africa, when, a lot of the numbers in the slave trade don't add up at all.
Yeah. I still got to do some research on that one. There's a lot of people who be kind of nudging me on that, but yeah, that's one I got to do some research on. Yeah, but no doubt. But all right, let's get hold up. Let's get back. There we go. Let's get back into the video. And where was we at? All right.
Of education, the oldest post-millennials are enrolling in college at a significantly higher rate than millennials were at a comparable age. This is likely because the parents of Gen Z are more well-educated.
And by the way, okay, I'll go ahead and address what somebody was talking about in the chat room. They trying to educate us on Gen Z. Like, don't be posting pictures that's gonna have these brothers circling around college campuses and stuff. Now, I saw I saw somebody in the chat room like, "Hey, Gen Z looking good."
Yeah, I have a take on the HBCUs as well. Like when it comes to Morehouse and Spelman, because I'm right here in the city. My sister went to Spelman. My stepmother actually graduated from Morris Brown, and I think overall the HBCUs have become very dangerous. The campuses of HBCUs have become a lot more dangerous. As a matter of fact, I covered a mass shooting that happened earlier this year at Grambling State, I believe, during their spring break celebration. I also covered a shooting that just happened at Spelman during a G Herbo concert. And then I also covered a shooting that happened at Clark Atlanta. So, I think that, and then as far as the dorm situations in Howard and stuff like that. So, you kind of have like this movement of people kind of pushing Black Americans to go to HBCUs and all this kind of stuff, which I'm not completely totally against. But I think that there is a huge safety issue that the HBCUs don't want to admit and don't want to acknowledge. And I think that's holding us back as well.
That's an angle that I'm unfamiliar with. See, I always looked at HBCUs, and this debate happened on my show before where we were talking about somebody had mentioned that they said something about how the requirements are lower to get in, but then the response was, yeah, well, so what? It's still producing more Black doctors, more Black lawyers, more Black engineers, and they're getting out there, they're getting their degrees, and they're doing well. So it's like,
from my understanding, the majority of Black doctors are actually Nigerian.
Okay, I was just going off what somebody said. They said,
okay.
Well, no, both of those can be true. The HBCUs can still be putting out Black doctors at a relatively higher percentage rate than the predominant. What do you call the
PWIs, predominantly
PWIs,
white institutions? Yes.
Yeah, then the PWIs. But I don't know. Maybe both of those can be true, but I don't know. I'll that's another thing I gotta look into. But I haven't had much criticism of the HBCUs, but that's the interesting.
Yeah.
If you're saying violence is an issue.
Well, I think a lot of this Black to or Back to Africa narrative is being taught in the HBCUs, and I think that's an issue to distort your understanding of where your family, your specific family, comes from. Now, it's going to be obviously different for each individual, but the main institutions that I see pushing this Back to Africa narrative and this Pan-African narrative are the HBCUs. And I think that's a huge issue. And it's counterintuitive to us actually gaining, the full rights that we're supposed to.
Yeah, that's a whole show examining the HBCUs. But
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and get back into this. They're about to say some things that I know you're gonna take some issue with. So let's go. All right, this is a video for those who just made it in with this video where they're talking about Black Gen Zs and giving this is a Black Excellence YouTube channel. They're talking about Black Gen Zs. We got Black Gen Z Mindset on the show, and we're examining this. So let's go.
Millennials were at a comparable age. This is likely because the parents of Gen Z are more millennials are enrolling in college at a significantly higher rate than millennials were at a comparable age. This is likely because the parents of Gen Z are more well-educated than the parents of millennials, baby boomers, and those of previous generations. One thing we've learned about Black Gen Z is that they are honored to be Black.
Now, that is one in the cap for the Gen Zs, that they're picking up more college debt, but they are enrolling into college at a higher rate, and they say the reason why is because, well, their parents enrolled into college at a higher rate. You go back far enough, you got people who parents were, raised by the factory workers with a 6th grade education. You know what I mean? So it's like, is there a there to your assessment?
I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. I think that you're seeing the influx of Gen Z, specifically Gen Z women, going into college and universities, because we know when it comes to men in general, specifically melanated men, we're not actually enrolling in these universities at that high of a rate. But I think that, the increase is actually caused by feminism, not because, my parents were educated, so I'm going to go to college too. I think that it's more of a safety valve for women to go to college and have a backup plan, because they don't want a man to be their first plan. So they go to college in order to not to depend on a man. So I think that's more of the reason why, not necessarily, because their parents went to college.
Yeah. You speaking our language.
72% say that they are proud of their heritage, and they acknowledge the fact that everyone has a different upbringing and unique experience in the world that can be appreciated. Because we all know that there is not a singular Black experience in the entire world. One more thing you can say about Black Gen Z.
There you go with that Black Rainbow Lives Matter shit.
Inflating the causes.
59% have hobbies or interests they're passionate about, and about 46% have expertise in things that some people consider nerdy. Black Gen Z is experimenting with activities that are not typically associated with the Black culture, thereby expanding what it means to be Black. And Black Gen Z is willing to go to bat to protect the culture. Black teens and adults feel that cultural appropriation is a problem. Almost half of Black Gen Z, 47%, believe it's pretty bad, especially when it comes to language, hairstyles, and fashion. Black Gen Z also feel that.
All right. This is where he losing me. Is he completely losing you on this shit? All right. Cultural appropriation, full disclosure, I don't give two shits about it. I don't care what white people do with their hair. If they see some Black people do a cool dance and they say, hey, I want to do that cool dance too, who gives a shit? We're living a melting pot of a bunch of cultures. We're all going to borrow from each other. And that's that. I don't understand what the hell is cultural appropriation. I don't get it.
Yeah,
apparently, your generation got a big issue with it. What's up with that?
Yeah, and that's just a it's just like a logical fallacy within the thought process of specifically Black Gen Z melanated women. It's not much Black men. They're the ones who are pretty much upset with seeing a white girl with a quote unquote Black hairstyle, or if they see a Black man with a white woman who is voluptuous, they'll say, oh well, you got they say you got a Black woman in a white woman's body and all this kind of stuff. So I think they're more focused on the cultural appropriation trend, when in all actuality, they're the ones who are appropriating themselves, especially when you see the weaves, the different hairstyles. That's not your hair, but you have it in your head. Whereas specific hairstyles are not exclusive to just one race. But when you go and take somebody else's hair and put it in your hair, then you're appropriating not only their hair, but their culture as well. So I think they're the main ones. Melanated women in my age range are the main ones who are concerned with cultural appropriation, especially when it comes to fashion, hairstyles, and whatnot.
Right on, right on.
That corporate America must put some respect on the Black culture. 53% believe that brands need to respect the African American culture to earn their trust, to earn their money. But why is it that Gen Z is so Black conscious, socially aware, and protective of the culture? Well, for one, they identify with Black culture to earn the Black culture. 53% believe that brands need to respect the African American culture to earn their trust, to earn their money. But why is it that Gen Z is so Black conscious, socially aware?
Now, I do think Black people should be conscious about where we spend our money. Like,
absolutely.
For example, I went to the mall yesterday, and in the food court, there's a lot of restaurants closing in the food court at the mall, but a restaurant just opened up in there. It had some Black sounding name. I forgot what it was, but I supported a Black business and supported myself getting diabetes and increased blood pressure with all that all that damn fried food. So it's like we be supporting Black businesses when the peach cobbler good. We support, but no, I do think we do need to be conscious of that. But I think they like to go I think they like to go far with it to the point of saying that these businesses need to do, I don't know, it sounds like something extra or special, some special pleading, special pandering type of things as far as their way of advertising to get Black people on board. But I don't even know if that works. I think Black people buy what they like, and I don't think kissing the ass of Black people makes them buy it anymore. But anyway,
I would disagree. Because you see when the BLM movement was going, all these different corporations were making large donations to the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation, and Black people were applauding them. They were like, "Oh, you do that, y'all better, whatever." So I think that it definitely makes a difference. As a matter of fact, I think that a lot of times when these companies actually support Black causes, that it actually hurts us, because they're supporting the Black causes that they deem are worth support, not necessarily what the Black people or the Black community deem what to support. So they're supporting causes that are completely manufactured, and most of the time not by Black people. As you see with Black Lives Matter and their funding and whatnot. And if the face of the organization is compromised or is comprised of Black people, then usually those Black faces, no pun intended, are not necessarily for the cause that we think they are. So I think that these companies and corporations, they pretty much use Black people because as a whole, I know people say, "Oh, we're not a monolith" and all that kind of stuff, but we do pretty much move monolithic, especially when it comes to large cultural topics and issues, large cultural topics and issues that have come up within the past decade. I would say we very much move monolithic in thought, in the way that we move politically, and in social awareness.
I'm glad you said politically, because I was just about to say, you can't say that the people who vote for the same party at a roughly a 90% rate, you can't say that, then turn around and say we're not a monolith. Oh, yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yeah, but no, yeah. Good points on the companies. I shouldn't say I guess I shouldn't say pandering. I mean, the companies are. I mean,
it is pandering.
Well, they're technically supposed to do things to get the support, but it's kind of some nonsense behind it. Nonsense behind it, though.
Well, the purpose of a company is to increase profits. So they're using the Black sentiment, the Black plight, in order to increase profits. It's not necessarily that they have a political stance here or there. It's that they know what works on y'all. So, or us. Okay. So they know what works on us. So they use it. And they use it to increase their profits, whether it be constructive or destructive to the Black community overall. That's why you see hip hop music being marketed so heavily. There's no censorship at all whatsoever on any of the lyrics that are going into hip hop music on YouTube. But then they censor, channels like mine, maybe even channels like yours, who are, having legitimate, logical, truthful conversations about the community. Their main goal is to drive a profit. And they know that if they attach themselves, because we do have a large spending power, they know if they attach themselves to our political movements and what these representatives, these chosen representatives, these handpicked representatives for the Black community, if they align with them, then they will have the Black community, because Black people think politically as a monolith. And I'm not saying all, I'm just saying in general.
No doubt. Good stuff.
Aware and protective of the culture. Well, for one, they identify with the notion that they are going to change the world they live in and not adapt to it. They're going to speak out about what they feel are injustices and unfairness. And they are strong advocates of equality. Taking all this into account, it should not come as a surprise that Gen Z is considered to be the generation leading the Black Lives Matter movement, as it's important that these young trailblazers remain socially aware and responsible. Black Gen Z also feels that the Black...
I feel like now we're getting to a point where we're going to be stopping at every 2 sentences. They're saying that the Gen Zs are the ones, they leading that charge. They speaking out against inequality. You said something that a lot of Black people would view to be controversial. You said it earlier in the show. You said that things are pretty much equal. Now, go ahead and square that one for us. Things being pretty much equal. Because what someone would argue, I'll play the devil's advocate here. What somebody would argue, well, how could it be equal when we can look at all of these disparities in outcomes, so to speak? And then you got, as we see here, a bunch of Gen Zers, marching in the streets, Black Lives Matter. I think I see a little rainbow flag somewhere in there. But they got the Gen Zs marching to speak Black Lives Matters, all these racial inequities, inequalities, injustices, blah, 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 blah. You're sitting here, you're saying it's equal. Everything is pretty much equal. Explain.
I would say that your outcome in life comes to, obviously your upbringing and your individual decision-making skills. So a lot of people, may have individual stories of them, running into quote unquote racism and whatnot, or somebody, calling them out their name. And that happens between any demographic of people. It's not just white people calling you out your name. If a Black person calls you out your name, then, we don't really have no issue with it. As we see, we use the N-word as a term of endearment to each other. And even if somebody was going to add the B word and the A word and say, oh, he a bitch ass nigger or whatever, then, you start to take offense to it and whatnot. So a lot of the encounters...
You just put an ER on the end of that one?
Oh, no, I didn't. But
it sounded like you said bitch ass nigger. I never heard bitch ass nigger.
What I'm saying is in order to make the N-word offensive from a Black person, it has to be prefaced with pussy ass or bitch ass or fuck nigger or something like that. In order for it to be an insult. Whereas if I was just going to say, oh, yo, you a nigga or something like that, then there would be no offense taken. So I think that a lot of these quote unquote encounters with racism, and I'm not saying that it hasn't happened to anybody and nobody's ever had an encounter. I mean, me myself has had encounters with racism, but at the end of the day, is that something that is limiting my progression in life? No. And I think that a lot of times it comes down to individual decision making. Obviously, some arenas are going to be rigged in the favor of a certain demographic, and it may not just be white people. If I apply for a job and a Black woman applies for a job, she's more likely to get that job because she's checking more minority boxes to fill a corporate quota. So I'm not going to call that racism. And then when you get into crime and all this stuff, according to the Department of Justice, black men serve 20% longer sentences than any other race. But then if you compare and contrast those same numbers between men and women, as you see, men serve, I think, between like 30 to 40% longer sentences. So, I could say, oh, it's sexist, but then the women are going to say, oh, no, the world's sexist against them. So my point is pick a struggle. The world is not perfect, but at the end of the day, it all comes down to your upbringing, your individual decision-making skills. And I would say as of today, in 2022, if you are failing in life, it's not because of racism. And it's been like that for a long time.
Yeah, I agree. But what do you think about this concept that I've been kind of teasing around with a little bit? I reject, like you, I reject, many aspects of the whole woe is me victim narrative is racism that's stopping me from doing this and doing that and blah, blah, blah. And I do think it would benefit Black people to shake aspects of the Victim Olympics. Now, on the other hand, now let's look at, what we got going on with Kyrie, which I started to make that part of the title, but I want to just make the show all about that. But I'm glad we found our way to it. But, right. When it comes to what's going on with Kyrie, and I just posted a video, a short that's, I won't say it's going viral, but it's getting a whole hell of a lot of views. The short I just posted basically it's just to show listing the demands that they're making on him, how they just want him to say sorry and give him a hug and massage their feet and kiss the ring and go go push their kids on a swing and do all kind of little niceties for them and so it's like, and I looked at the Jews, like they're winning the Success Olympics and the Victim Olympics, because any little thing is like, oh, we're so offended. I can't believe you did this to us. You said something so awful that made me, feel some type of way. It's like so it's like they deep in their feelings when it comes to the Victim Olympics, but they're also super successful. But here we are, smacking the wrist of Black people like, no. You don't get to bask in the glory of victimhood. That's not for you. So it's like, so what do you think about that one? Because the Jews are showing, I guess they're showing how to be victims the right way, because they doing damn good at it. But go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm glad you brought up that topic. So when it comes to the Jews and the quote unquote victimhood mindset, I wouldn't say that it's mainly quote unquote victimhood mindset. I think that it's more smoke and mirrors. I think that they, for one, have a lot of political power when it comes to the entertainment industry, when it comes to social media platforms, when it comes to, law, when it comes to medicine, all that kind of stuff. So they have a huge influence when they're a very small percentage of the population. So it's not necessarily about racism and taking the victim mentality. It is smoke and mirrors to distract from what's actually going on. There was an article that was put out in the Los Angeles Times on December 19th, 2008. And it stated that, and let me just make sure. Okay, so it stated, the title was, and you guys can go look this up. As a matter of fact, I'll drop it in the chat. And I did a show on this, a live stream on this the other day. It says, "Who runs Hollywood?" And then sarcastically, it says, "Come on." Okay. And this was written, and I'll even share the screen if you allow me. Yeah, but ahead. This was written by a Jewish man. Okay. And he is completely admitting that Jews run Hollywood. And I'll just read like the first paragraph. He says, "I have never been so upset by a poll in my life. Only 22% of Americans now believe the movie and television industries are pretty much ran by Jews, down from nearly 50% in 1964. The Anti-Defamation League, which released the poll results last month, sees in these numbers a victory against stereotyping. And this is his opinion. He says, actually, it just shows how dumb America has gotten. Jews totally run Hollywood. So this is from a Jewish man himself. He's an editor for the Los Angeles Times. They allowed him to publish this in December 19, 2018. And then they go down the list of most of the major executives in the entertainment industry who pretty much are running the entertainment industry. So, they're absolutely, it's not wrong to say that, hey, they have a lot of power. And as a matter of fact, they run the shit when it comes to entertainment specifically. And we can get into other industries as well. I mean, it's been well documented. You can't deny the fact. So I think that it's more of a smoke and mirrors, and because they have a stronghold on entertainment, they can control the narrative, and they can say, hey, Kyrie, you have to go through these 2K quests in order to get up from under the storm that you've caused for yourself. When all actuality, I mean, Kyrie is definitely onto something. As far as the movie link that he shared on his Instagram, I've only seen the reviews of it. I've seen, 5-star reviews, and I've seen 1-star reviews. So I haven't really looked into the Hebrew to Negro movie that he spoke on specifically. But what I will say, though, is that, him nor Kanye were necessarily wrong in the assertion that, yes, Jews do have a lot of political power. As a matter of fact, the late Henry Ford, who is now being deemed anti-Semite, actually wrote he documented a lot of information during the early 20th century on, their influence and how, they've pretty much been able to gain a stronghold in pretty much all of the important industries throughout America. And, you can simply see it today. There's no other group that, is off limits but them. You can say, oh, white people suck, mayo, they don't season their food and all this kind of stuff. But if you were to say, oh, well, the Jews, all they eat is unleavened bread and halal or some shit like that, then you would be castrated socially. So as far as the victimhood mindset, I don't think the Jews are necessarily using a victimhood mindset. It is it's pretty much the Hegelian dialect where they're presenting themselves as victim, but then they're also in the position of power. So they're controlling both of the narratives. So yes, you could say, oh, well, the Jews use a victim mindset and whatever. But in all actuality, they're actually coming from a position of power. And that's where their censorship abilities and their influence to, freeze a former billionaire's assets in the in JP Morgan and Chase banks is directly linked to their influence and the lack of victimhood in their narrative. So
they pretend to be victims so they can obscure the fact that they are actually running and controlling everything. Everything that you see in red is TV companies, media companies, or whatever that's owned by them. So yeah, so there's that. So they want to play. They play they pretend to be hurt and offended just to get you to not mention this. So yeah, that's fair assessment there. Fair assessment there. But all right, getting back into this.
Culture needs a stronger presence and representation in their school curricula and extracurricular activities. Just over half of Black children in middle schools feel that their school system promotes the African American culture. And a significantly smaller amount of Black college-age kids feel that their universities bring awareness to their culture through lessons, events, and celebrations. And although they are facing an uncertain future on the heels of a deadly pandemic and a polarized and divided America, they still remain optimistic. 87% of the Black Gen Z are hopeful for the future. But in spite of this optimism, 60% of Black Gen Z report that racial inequality is a significant problem. The older members experienced the outrage of Trayvon Martin's murder. And now the younger ones are taking up the fight against the senseless killings of innocent Black people like Breonna Taylor, Elijah McClain, Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd, and countless others. Those surveyed pointed out that there are substantial obstacles for Blacks when pursuing the American dream, and the wealth gap and opportunity gap between white Americans and Black Americans need to be addressed. Black Gen Z.
All right, and while I'm playing this, you can stop me at any moment if there's anything that jump out to you that you wanted to speak on.
Yeah, I want to kind of address those names that he called out. He called out Trayvon Martin, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and the like. So there are a lot of issues with those individual cases. The ones that I really want to focus on that I think are more or less no-brainers are those three. So when it comes to the Trayvon Martin situation, I mean, George Zimmerman was not even necessarily like a white guy. You see what I'm saying? So if anything, then that would be like a minority on minority type feud, even though he, appears to have white skin. He had, if I'm not mistaken, Hispanic origins.
Not really. He doesn't. When I look at him, I don't see a white man. I see a Latino, Hispanic, or a Mexican. Right. Just to go ahead and shorthand it, I see a Mexican when I look at him. I don't. See, right. I don't know how he got made out to be white. That was a black and brown.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then when it comes to Breonna Taylor, I mean, she was involved in a very violent drug syndicate. She was dating a guy who was heavily engulfed into the streets. And I'm not saying that she necessarily deserved what happened to her, but like I said, it comes to individual choices. And, she was not completely innocent. I know that, people may or may not be aware of the rental car that she had rented in her name that was tied to a homicide. As a matter of fact, the individual's, I believe, individual's body was left in that rental car that she had rented in her name for her Pookie boyfriend. So, there's issues with that case as well, but
there's people who still think she got shot while she was in the bed asleep. I mean,
exactly.
There is a video that she was in the hallway.
Yeah, she was in the hallway. Her boyfriend Kenneth Walker shot at the police before she was killed, and basically there's two kind of overall narratives that are going around, but ultimately, like, we've concluded that he shot at the police in the hallway, ducked off, and then let her catch all the bullets. So, obviously there are issues there. They're trying to say that the police didn't announce themselves when they actually did announce themselves. And there's so much misinformation when it comes to that case. And Black people.
Hold on, wait, let me back up. Was it evidence? I forgot about this part. Was it actual evidence that they announced themselves?
Yes.
Or like the body cam showed that they did announce themselves and then they rushed in, or what?
So if I'm not mistaken, I did a breakdown on this case. It was an older case, but so there were there's body cam footage, and then there's multiple testimonies, even from Kenneth Walker, even though he says that I didn't hear them and whatnot. They did knock on the door. They did announce themselves, and maybe he didn't hear them say police, but he did say that he heard something inaudible. So, that's an issue there. And, ultimately the charges were dropped on him. So, he's free and clear to move on and whatnot. But yeah, I mean,
my biggest issue with that, and I don't even know if this necessarily applies there, but they can't have a no-knock warrant and a stand your ground law going on at the same time. I mean, if they announce themselves, they announce themselves. But if the police could barge in and he got right to stand his ground, it's like those things are in conflict with each other. So it's some issues there. But the overall media narrative of it was really some bullshit. I mean, it was,
for sure.
Was.
And I think that was that narrative was used to galvanize the Black community into a more destructive path rather than productive. We see all this activism and quote unquote activism and stuff like that when it comes to situations like this, where a white officer or maybe even a white man takes the life of a melanated individual. But I think the main issue is that there's no outrage at all when it comes to like the constant day-to-day battle that we face that is black on black crime. And I'm not trying to minimize the loss of life, on the other side, but I'm just saying, we have more pressing issues to address. And I think that a lot of these situations are being used as distractions. Now, when it comes to Ahmaud Arbery, the narrative of him jogging was absolute bullshit. He was seen on camera staking out a vacant home, and people say, oh, well, people visit vacant homes and they just like the look and whatnot. Yeah, that's all fine and dandy. But then you have to look back at his history. There are multiple videos out there of prior arrests of Ahmaud Arbery or interactions with law enforcement. One of them was where he was like parked near these train tracks in Brunswick, Georgia, where, he was, catching heavy attitude with the police in a known drug area. Another video of Ahmaud Arbery shows him in a Walmart parking lot where he attempted to steal a 70-inch television from Walmart. So, and he was doing that with juveniles, guys who were as young as, if I'm not mistaken, 14 years old. And these, guys didn't even know what he was up to. So, there's videos out there. He was a known thief. It's unfortunate that he lost his life in the way that he did. But like I said, it goes down to individual actions. Now, I'm not saying the McMichaels did the right thing. But I do think that they have a right to attempt to protect their neighborhood. The manner in which they did that was absolutely illegal. And yes, they should be thrown in jail. But the narrative is that, oh, well, he was innocent and they just ran up on him for no reason and killed him. And then if you see in the video, when they did tell him to stop, when they drew their weapons on him, he actually fought, and I don't know if you've ever been in front of the barrel of a gun, but it's not. You got a shotgun pointing right at you, and you're caught in the wrong. Bro, you got to stop. You got to stop.
Yeah. The only issue there, and I'm with you. The narrative that he was just a guy out going for his morning jog. No, that wasn't a thing. They had reason to call the police. And they had reason to follow him. And this is one area where I got some of the facts wrong. You can't attempt to, you can't come locked and loaded, with guns out while making a citizen's arrest or even attempting to make a citizen's arrest. And they didn't exactly see him commit a felony. Like they were wrong. Like they were wrong. It's just, again, they put out a narrative. They put out a narrative to just drum up emotions in black people. They show they show his high school graduation picture, and he was just out for his nice little breezy morning jog. But then it comes out that no, it was evidence that he was in that house, and somebody said something to him, and then he ran. Yeah, and they had been seeing him. They had been seeing him going in and out of that house, so. They were on the phone with the police while following him. But the mere fact that they did that with guns out, he had every right to think, oh, they're trying to kill me. And he charged the guy with the gun. And at that point, it's a fight to the death. The two people fighting over a gun. So
right. But you have to, I think you kind of have to understand also the climate and the influx in crime that happened within the past few years. So people are already on edge, and you guys guys may be oblivious to this, but the reality is people are on edge in all major cities, and they're seeing the ramifications of what's going on in cities like Atlanta and Macon, Georgia. It's going on everywhere when it comes to this crime and all this type of stuff, carjackings, thefts, armed robberies, home invasions, whatnot. So you have to understand that, for one, people are on edge. A lot of times they feel like they might have to take matters into their own hands. And the reason why this was so blown up in the way that it was is because the McMichaels were white. And, like I said, I'm not saying that they did the right thing. I think that they did the wrong thing. But would we have this much outrage if, the same thing happened between Black men, which we won't? I can answer that question because it happens every day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you can literally get killed being caught in the wrong hood in Atlanta, just for going to a school on the other side of town.
Mm-hmm.
We are well aware of these obstacles, which also include the lack of access to healthcare, restrict our opportunity gap between white Americans and Black Americans need to be addressed. Black Gen Z are well aware of these obstacles, which also include the lack of access to healthcare, restrictive voting rights, the cost of higher education, and most notably police brutality. And they will not accept this. Black Gen Z wants to reframe the stories of historical resilience and look to more future-focused narratives, those that revolve around success and Black excellence. They want to showcase stories highlighting modern-day trailblazers, immortalize Black heroes, and concentrate on Black achievement. These Black young activists are focused on representing all groups of people who are impacted by a certain...
What's up with this nigga? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. God damn. Anyway.
issue and support one America, a nation with different racial, ethnic, sexual, or gender backgrounds other than themselves. The Black community is a strong, resilient one. While stories of survival are foundational and necessary, Black teens and young adults feel that it's time to turn the tide on the narrative of the Black experience. It's time to go from survive to thrive. Gen Z is experimenting with activities that are not typically associated with the Black culture, thereby expanding what it means to be Black. From TikTok to Black Lives Matter, Gen Z is considered to be the generation leading activism. It's important that these young trailblazers remain socially aware and responsible. It's just as important that they protect their peace.
We appreciate the fact that...
All right, that was a video summing up Gen Z, summing up the Gen Zs. I put the link in the chat. It looked like a lot of people had some disagreement down there.
Sure.
A lot of people had some disagreement down there. So if you got some disagreement, by all means, come on up. By all means, come on up. Shit, hold on.
Give me 1 second. I'm going to use the restroom real quick.
Yeah. Go ahead and do what you got to do. Go ahead and do what you got to do. I had to take a pause for a minute. Because I had to figure something out. But go ahead. We got 159 people in here. I have no idea where we're at on the like. So make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the like button. Support the stream. Make it ring during the stream. Y'all know what to do. But so interesting convo. Interesting convo. We talked about a number of things that good for you. I should have did the early vote thing because I really gotta go annoyingly go vote. Gotta go make myself. I gotta go vote. Gotta go make myself vote when we get off of here. So make sure y'all go and do that. I definitely will be going to do that soon as I get off of here. And I see we got people coming on in the back. So we got the standard RLC in the building. Man, cut it out. You said he fucked. All right, go ahead. The standard RLC in the building. What's going on? What you got, man? Mic check 1 2. Are you there? Bruh. Say something. Going once. Going twice.
Can you hear me?
Okay, there you go. Yeah, we hear you now.
My bad. All right, what's going on, BR? What's going on, brother?
What's up?
Not much. I've been teaching in high schools for 8 years. And so I've had like direct, interactions with Gen Z. And I tell all my friends, I say, y'all better be afraid to get old, because when your kids send you to a nursing home, they gonna run the nursing home, or they gonna have the kids that's gonna take care of you. And I wouldn't trust none of these kids to take care of my, whoever in my family, because they like real impulsive. They don't think things through. And so as far as them being better than millennials, they're not. And I read a study a couple of weeks ago that said 75% of them want to be YouTubers and vloggers. They don't want to be doctors, lawyers, engineers, nothing like that. They want to be famous.
Damn. Does that ring true for you, Gen Z?
Well, I mean, here as a YouTuber,
right.
I definitely see some credence to that. I actually volunteer for the Boys and Girls Club in the Metro Atlanta area. I see a lot of younger kids. I mainly work with elementary school kids because I don't think you can really help these middle school or high schoolers. I've tried it before. And a lot of it is a lost cause for sure. So I try to start, with younger kids who are more open to listening, more open to being molded into, productive citizens. And, there are a lot of issues, coming from the community. And I think the main thing is, the home environment, man, that's pivotal in what's going on. And a lot of people are just being improperly raised. A lot of these young kids have access to vulgar music at a very young age, 8, 9, 10 years old. There's no reason why a kid should be listening to any of this modern hip hop music at these young ages. But, they're given a smartphone and told to shut the hell up and go into the other room. And, the wormhole is open. So, I think what's happening at these homes, in these households, especially with no male leadership, is completely a tragedy. And, I'll see kids coming home or coming to school with feminized mannerisms in behavior, in body language, in attitude, in social interactions as well. I'm not saying that they're part of the LGBT community by any means, but you can clearly see the influence that being raised by a single woman, has had on their overall demeanor. And I think it's a big issue. And I think it's not being addressed. As a matter of fact, it's being propped up everywhere we go. You see this female empowerment. Oh, she can do it all by herself. Single mothers rule the world, and other different mantras that dominate, common society today. And I think that type of mindset is absolutely leading these young kids astray.
Yeah, good stuff. Gen, he said, well, I guess we'll put this in the form of a question. Gen Z still fall victim, or do Gen Z still fall victim to blaming white supremacy? We kind of touched on that. You go ahead and speak on that again.
Absolutely. And I think more, I'm not going to say now than ever, but definitely, like I said, the victim mindset is absolutely pervasive throughout the community when it comes to the Gen Z demographic. You have a lot of Black people who continually make excuses, even though, in a lot of situations, they're not doing the right thing, but they want to displace the blame because that's how they've been taught. They don't want to take accountability for their actions. They don't want to own up to these mistakes that they are making in their lives. So they're going to say, oh, well, we put here anyway, and we're put in these hoods, we're put in these ghettos. But the reality is your mother just chose to receive government assistance rather than, getting a better job, pursuing, higher employment opportunities, maybe moving to a area where the cost of living is a lot cheaper. I never see these types of solutions being proposed. It's always just, oh, well, we were put here and we have to stay here, and there ain't no way for us to get out, and moving is hard, and just because the neighborhood is dangerous don't mean that this ain't my neighborhood and ain't nothing gonna happen to me. But then something happens to them and now they're screaming, woe is me. And I'm not victim blaming at all. I'm just saying that people want to hold down these neighborhoods and these environments that are not even ours.
Right on. The Standard RLC, got another question or comment?
No, man, I think you spot on a lot of points. Interacting with Gen Z has been very interesting, and I always say I feel like a cop that's been on beat too long. Like I'm starting to see the worst in people, but I think you might have a hand up because I think you're an older Gen Z, and I noticed that the kids that I started teaching with 8 years ago, they're about your age now, around that, and they're okay. They were okay. They weren't that bad. But like moving up to now, the kids we're about to send out into the world, or we have in the last 4 or 5 years, I just say we're in trouble. And I'm not even sure what to do about it. Like you said, family is really important, but they're normalizing like single parenthood. And that's across the board with, all races and colors and everything. They, dad's not around. We all know that. So it's gloomy, but they won't do better than a lot of generations. Like if anything, no, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely getting worse.
Yeah. See, part of what I was hoping for in this discussion, I was hoping that you were going to tell me that, especially like the last super chat just said something about, blaming everything on white supremacy. I was thinking, what did it say? It says Gen Z still fall victim to blaming white supremacy. I was hoping that you would say that Gen Z has more of a mindset, seeing as we kind of explained all the racial intermingling and mixing, and a lot of that is sort of engineered by one party trying to galvanize everybody to vote a certain way against against anything that's white and male, for that matter. That's just a voting strategy. But I was hoping that they looked at race different to the point to where they didn't see it as much of an impediment, and just had an attitude of we about to go out there and accomplish it and get it done. But
can I say something on that?
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I work in the hood in Texas, and I will say in practice they don't think like white supremacy, like the white man, but they will use it when it's convenient, and they know all the talking points, and they'll use it when they're in a situation with white people. Like just because it's a white person, they think that some kind of evil, nefarious plan is coming out of whatever's happening. So then they know, then they're like, oh yeah, he white, he being racist. But I don't think they think like they're keeping the meat down. I don't think that's the mindset.
Yeah, I like to call it manufactured racism, because now they're kind of lowering the bar for what's racist and what's not. As you guys see, like this Karen thing is exploding. They're able to get older white women, usually in a gotcha moment, and that is being deemed as an example of systematic racism still being alive today. And a lot of these Karen situations are misunderstandings blown out of proportion that could be easily resolved by a simple conversation. But the first thing that we do is pull out our phones and try and get white people in a gotcha moment. And I mean, it's absolutely embarrassing. It just shows that like it just shows like we're really seeking validation from this demographic. And you see like people talking about microaggressions and whatnot. And it's like, y'all are just trying to find a way to say that, hey, I've been affected by systematic racism too. So it exists. I mean, as a matter of fact, like even when you see Black politicians, get scrutinized, get criticized for corruption, because a lot of time, I mean, if you go and look at New Orleans with Mayor LaToya Cantrell, she's in a whole heap of shit right now, you know, using public funds to fly first class and, you know, defending teenage super gremlins who are carjacking people. So she's, you know, very corrupt, and people criticize her. And then what is the first thing that she does? Oh, well, this is the white Republican establishment who is trying to, you know, get a black woman out of a position of power because they want their city of New Orleans back. And it's like everybody just wants the city to be safe. You know, it's not a black or white thing. It's just that when you put these individuals in positions of power, and this is not every melanated person, but a lot of times, you know, they're put into these positions for a reason, and they're not really for the people. They're trying to create destruction and chaos out of nothing.
I'm here on the corner of MLK and Frederick Douglass, where a shooting just took place. And as you can see, it's a pretty rough area. So I'm basically risking my life reporting on this madness. So make sure you do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. Like the video, hell, share the video. And make sure you go ahead and leave a comment down in the comments section to continue the discussion on how we can find solutions to all this son violence in the streets. I'm Jenquavius Jackson, here live, reporting from Atlanta, Georgia, BGZM News 17.
Yeah. What do we got here? Sway Producing. Don't know if this is trolling, but I'm going to read it. It says, what's the difference between Gen Z trying to YouTube or podcast to old heads growing up trying to hustle their way to money, drugs, fake apparel, etc.?
I guess that's a question for Buddy. Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with the YouTube hustle. It's just everybody's trying to do it. And nobody grew up saying, I wanted to be like, if they did that survey like 30 years ago, nobody'd be like, I want to be a drug dealer. It wouldn't be 75%. You know, back, you know, these days, you get YouTube vloggers and just basically social media personalities. But that's the difference. Plus, it's legal. And it's a lot easier.
Yeah, that's I was about to say. Am I the only one missing that he just compared YouTubing to selling drugs?
Yeah, it's legal and a lot easier to do.
Yeah, those do completely different things here.
And I have no issue with you know, people wanting to get into YouTubing or entertainment or social media influencing and whatnot. But what that does is, especially if you're asking, you know, Black America these questions, it's going to inevitably minimize our representation in more important fields. So we talked about the Jews earlier, and, you know, they teach their kids to go into these important fields. Indians teach their kids to go into medicine. Nigerians teach their kids to go into law or medicine, engineering. Yeah. So they're teaching their kids to go into these fields. And then what happens is now on the back end, Black people are like, oh, we're being left out. We're being discriminated against, when in all actuality, as a whole, not saying everybody, but as a whole, we're just not interested in these things. And, you know, we could care less about going into these fields and making a change ourselves. And I'm not saying everybody, but I'm just saying in general. That's why there's a lack of representation. It's not because you're being pushed out or kept from entering these industries. It's because you probably don't really have interest in doing that yourself.
Yeah. You know, to what degree do you think, or just see? I tend to circle everything back to culture more so than being left out or locked out of certain industries. You know, are we really going into it? Are we going into STEM at the rate that we could? And then there's the issue of, are you starting from the ground up with your kids, guiding them in that direction? If you're guiding them in that direction from the start, then you're going to increase their probability. You're going to increase their probability getting in that direction. I mean, it's almost like they're you know, if they're not even on the path to it all through high school, they're not even on the path to it, then it's like, you know, okay, you can't just graduate high school mediocre scoring the ACT and SAT. Then like, okay, now go and be an engineer.
Yeah, and I'll see this a lot when I do go and visit the high schools and speak and you know, do business lectures in the high schools. A lot of these kids are like, oh yeah, I want to go to college. And then you say, hey, have you taken the SAT? You taken the ACT? Are you going to take that? They ain't even got it on their docket.
They don't. Some of them might not even know what it is.
Right.
And I'll tell you this, like, we don't do it at home. I talk to a lot of, you know, I'm in education, so I got a lot of friends who are teachers at every level. And the elementary school teachers are telling me that the kids come to school in kindergarten and don't know letters. Like, they teaching them from scratch from kindergarten. And then by the time they get to 7th, 8th grade, all the classes get packed up and they can't get that one-on-one focus or like that attention. They get lost and left behind. I got high school seniors who don't know what the word conform means. And that's an 8th grade vocabulary word. So when they talk about going to college, like our community doesn't teach this. We kind of just let our kids, like, you know, be whatever you want to be. And then we don't guide them in any direction. And then by the time they get out, you know, we got these expectations of college or whatever. And they may have done well in school to like get to college, but they didn't teach them the other stuff, like how to think critically. And and a lot of our kids actually, and granted, I work in not a very good school, but a lot of our kids come back from college and they're like, I wasn't ready for this. Mm-hmm. It's too much.
Yeah. That's why I was just going to say, and that's why you have a lot of black kids who are saying, oh, well, you know, I was unprepared for the PWIs. You have a lot of black dropouts because they just were not educated to the extent, you know, maybe they were smart, but their school had to slow it down for all the other students. So they weren't able to get the education that they needed to be successful in college.
That goes back to when we was talking about them HBCUs. From what I understand what HBCUs is like, you know, some of the black kids who maybe, you know, failing out of college, you know, they got to take classes over and over again and all of that. Oh, like perhaps from what I hear, it's like more support at the HBCU or more consideration for the fact that, hey, this kid probably hadn't, you know, had a bad start. We about to go the extra mile and do stuff to make sure he get through. But go ahead.
I went to Alabama State, and I remember getting there, and they had they didn't call them remedial classes, but they were like, you know, you didn't do this class well in high school, so here's a support class before we put you on your college track. So they had like, you know, reading and like low level English and stuff like that, so kids could catch up.
Yeah, I support that. You know, go ahead and red shirt the students, not just the athletes.
That's pretty much what it was.
These HBCUs, they're also passing a lot of people through, just like the high schools are doing.
Yep.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Man. Kids get passed through the education system like nothing these days.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, in the high schools, you could fail. I know this is happening in Baltimore. I know this happened in Detroit, also in Philadelphia. You can fail a class and they're still going to push you to the next grade.
Yeah, sometimes.
I know that in high school, but I've never heard nobody say that in college.
Oh yeah, they're absolutely doing that in college as well.
I'll tell you this. One of my professors in college, I had like failed every one of her tests or whatever. And I went up to her, this is my freshman year. I'm like, hey, is there anything I can do to pick my grade up? And she looked at me and she said, why would I fail you? And I was like, all right. Next thing I know, on my report card for that semester, I got an A. Just because I interacted in class and she liked me. Like, that's pretty much what got me through.
God damn! I thought when she just wasn't going to fail you, I thought you was going to get like a C or a C- or something. Just make sure you pass. She gave you an A.
I'm not gonna lie. Because this was like maybe.
I feel bad for the kid who worked hard and earned his B-. You just got an A.
Well, I picked up my grade a little bit. Because that kind of put a battery in my back. Like, I'm gonna work for this lady, and so for the rest of the semester, I knock out good grade on my exam and everything, and she passed me through.
All right. Okay. And this was in college?
Yeah, freshman year.
Freshman year. Okay. This was a female teacher?
Yeah, older lady.
Okay, older lady. Okay. I was just checking. All right. Anyway,
somebody said that nigga was a munch.
I don't even know what that is.
Oh no.
He was giving oral relations to the professor, allegedly.
Yeah, that's where I was going.
She was getting something from me.
Yeah, shout out to Fantastic. That's where I was going. I was like, how old was this teacher? Let me know something. But anyway, we joined by Sway. Is that Sway? I can't see the whole name. So you got to introduce yourself. It looks like they say Sway in the morning. But go ahead. You got the floor. You got the mic.
Good. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
I might be lagging, so if I'm lagging, it's fine if you kick me out. I'm at work, so if you hear background noise, I apologize. I can leave at any moment. But to the brothers who was talking about, I guess, the YouTube, to the podcast, to the Gen Z is better. I'm very based on this perspective. I think old heads have, quite a bit of responsibility on the actions of the Gen Zs, but the Gen Zs aren't like innocent. You know what I mean? They're not innocent. They're not like necessarily just outright better than old heads. I think a lot of times Gen Zs don't have the right convictions. They are in like their convictions are problems of the past. The convictions are problems of the old heads who actually went through things like police brutality and had to go through things like stop and frisk. Like they actually had to worry that, hey, if I get stopped by the police, I'm probably going to get beat up. They can stop me and frisk me whenever they want, shit like that. We don't go through those things. We're just pushed the narrative that we're supposed to be fearful of the police and then we're getting shot and killed left and right and this and that and the third. And granted, I'm sure some states are higher than others, but the narrative and the actual lived reality isn't the same. So to that point, to the YouTube point though, in the space, how old is Bernard Riley? You're what, probably 30 something, right?
I'm just turned 40 this year.
Okay, 40 something, right? So most of the men, even in these spaces, YouTubing and podcasting, are older than Gen Z.
Yeah.
Most of the people who I know that even in YouTube and have big platforms are older than a Gen Z.
Right. I don't see how that's the point. It sounds like you're missing the point that you're. Hold on, let me mute you for a second because you got the background. Wait, hold on, wait. Yeah, there you go. All right.
Sorry, my boss was calling for me. I gotta go help him do something.
All right, cool. All right. I believe he said he had to go. Yeah. I'll leave him right there. But it sounds like he's just missing the point that the problem is that asking them at a certain age, and maybe it was it in high school or middle school? I forgot how old they were when they were asked, but at a certain age, 70% of them saying, "Oh, I want to be a YouTuber." That is an astronomical number for 70% to be saying that. Yeah, that's what their goal is. Like that is an astronomical number. So pointing out that there's a lot of Gen X and Boomers doing YouTube for a living, that doesn't change the offness of that statement. But shout out to Jackie Jack. She says, just some more support. Great panel. Absolutely. Thank you very much. Do appreciate that.
Well, BR, you also got to remember that Gen X and Boomers a lot of y'all actually did something before y'all got on YouTube. A lot of these kids going straight to YouTube.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, again, there are some of them that are going to, there's always going to be a percentage that will succeed at it. It's just for sure if 70% are saying that that's what they want to do, then that's a little off. That number is a bit high. That's all. But I mean, I can understand it because they grow up. Put it like this: they grow up looking at their phone. They see YouTubers who they can relate to getting probably hundreds of thousands of views, making thousands of dollars off of it. Those are. A lot of those YouTubers making a lot of money. We talking really big salaries. We talking really big salaries for the YouTubers that are really killing it. So in that sense, I understand. In that sense, I totally completely understand that they look at that the same way. You know how there was a time, probably still like this. You ask any random boy, particularly black boy, what do you want to do when you grow up? Most of them said athlete. Most of them said they wanted to be an athlete, whether they had the talent or not. It just when playing football for a living seemed cool. Okay, getting on camera, talking for a living about something you're interested in, that sounds cool. So that's why they're saying it. But we know a problem if 70% of black boys are saying, "Oh, I want to play football or basketball when I grow up, we can see the problem with that. So I think the YouTube careers for this new generation is probably turning into that, like going pro for non-athletes. I'm gonna be a YouTuber, So I think that's probably what's going on there. But we are joined by Gabe A. What's up, Gabe A?
What's up, man? Not too much. Kind of want to chime in on the conversation a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So just jump in wherever, or are we?
Yeah, just jump right in. Jump right in.
So I do think that it is a very big difference between the Gen Z, occupations and aspirations. But I do think that a lot of it goes on the parents, right? As it concerns being exposed to certain educational opportunities like engineering, like STEM, right? I don't think that it's necessarily all on just the kids, because you're talking about.
It's definitely not.
You talk about individuals from 0 to 25, 26, 27, where a lot of where they've been influenced has been a direct effect of what they've been exposed to. So I know one thing they were mentioning, right, with the YouTube channels, right? And I think another thing that was also mentioned was that kids are just put in front of social media, put in front of a phone and said, go. So yeah, it does make sense that when the parents only allow the kids to be babysitted by digital devices and media, that they would only desire to go into a career in YouTube or a career in some type of social media influence. So I do think that a lot of it should be put on the parents here as well in that exposure. Just wanted to start there, but not going along diatribe or anything.
Yeah, no, I agree. The parents got something to do with it. In the video we watched, they talked about how the parents of Gen Z are more educated than the parents of the millennials or previous different generations. So the Gen Z are getting an advantage in that sense that they got more educated parents. And I understood where they was coming from, even though it's some nuance to that. But most things are going to fall back on parenting.
Bernard, I don't think educated parents mean parents who are exposing their children to quality things. Just because parents have went to college, went to universities, or have high careers doesn't mean that they're doing a good job at parenting. I think that that's also an aspect that needs to be considered too. Because they could be bad educated parents. They could be parents that are not really parented. So I think that that's another thing too.
Yeah, I definitely could see that. But you would think though, that more educated parents will do a better job at least guiding the kids in a direction, guiding them towards success. You would think that would be the case. But I'm looking. Go ahead. Anybody else want to jump in on that?
I was saying, Bernard, it's the parenting. A lot of my parents, when I call home, they don't ask me, or they're not checking to see if the kid is doing well in the class. They're just checking to see if they're doing the work. Like that's the standard. Did you do it? Not how well you do it, how accurately, how anything. Did you do it?
Yikes.
And then they expect at least a B off of that. And I'd say this too. One of my friends sent the article the other day. I'm trying to find it, where it's military.com is asking their generals and lieutenants and drill sergeants not to yell so much.
Oh wow, they're trying to get yelling out of the military.
Yeah, they told them not to yell so much.
That's crazy.
Because the kids, they already lowered the standard, the physical standards.
Yeah, it's the participation trophy generation.
Oh, speaking of, I got a lot of teaching stories. I'm sorry, but I went to a school one day and these kids were playing basketball, and I was a substitute at the time. And the gym teacher looked over and said, "You see those kids playing right now?" I was like, "Yeah." He said, "They don't know the score." I said, "What?" He said he called them over and they said, "Hey, what's the score?" Kid was like, "I don't know," and just ran off.
These kids randomly just playing?
They were playing basketball, and these were like 12-year-olds.
But this wasn't like semi-organized. They were just playing just freely.
It was gym class, yeah. But But even in gym class,
they just pick teams and play 3-on-3.
Yep,
that's basically what it was, and they don't keep score to see who.
And even then, like they don't keep score. They literally participation trophies. I'm here.
So I got a question for the brother who's a teacher on the panel. I know that you were mentioning the kids, the Gen Zs that you talked to, where things really weren't clicking, parents weren't really there. You wouldn't want them to be with your take care of your grandparents. I guess I want to ask the opposite question for the kids that you was like, yo, this is a quality individual, right? What were some of the I guess variables or some of the aspects of them kids that you saw that you was like, okay, that needs to be repeated?
Generally, those kids come from 2-parent households or like their parents were like nurses or something, maybe. Also, just their parents were checking in on them. You know, they were active, and they started early. It had to be early because a lot of these kids, they come to me like already like, okay, they're solid. But usually the parents involved and the couple of parents I would meet face to face, they were like well put together. You can tell that they were serious and they probably were successful themselves. So the best predictor at my school was lineage, really, but also just, you know, at home discipline. I hope I answered.
How were those kids treated though in class? Were they teased? Were they the lames and everything? I'm seeing some stuff in the chat.
No, some of them were actually pretty popular.
Okay.
Some of them were actually popular. Like one girl I know, she wasn't well. She was dating the point guard on the basketball team, but just a few of them were. Some of them were popular. Some of them, you know, it's half and half. You got your really charismatic, smart people, and then you got your really introverted, smart people. Like I got a girl right now who sits by herself in class and she straight A's, and I got another one who's a cheerleader and the loudest one in the room, and she got straight A's. So,
okay,
it depends on the kid.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
Yeah, well, y'all was going back and forth. Y'all caught me on my phone, and then y'all conversation ended too early, and I gotta. I'm doing a show. I forgot, but no. Shout out to everybody in the building. Do appreciate each and every one of y'all being here. Make sure you definitely hit the like button. Trying to think of I forgot what other questions I had going on. You can tell when I'm getting towards the end of the show because I do got to get out of here and go vote. Yeah, remember to go vote. It is if you haven't done it early already. I know some hipsters like to do it early. Don't like to be old school, traditional, stand in line and shit. But
yeah, I voted this morning.
Okay, that's what's up. That's what's
up. We got early voting down here. I was last week.
Yeah, no, I definitely should have got on it early because I'm damn it, don't feel like doing it, but I gotta go do it when I get over here. It says you hear Gabe, be careful when you post it in the chat. Well, I don't I ain't gonna start that. Theo's still live with I don't even know if you blocked in the chat room. Theo
I probably am, but I don't know. I just typically just listen anyway.
Yeah. Theo it makes his teeth white when he gets to block you. So even if I unblock you,
it's all good. I understand.
Theo go come for you again. But
no, but it's all good. I actually got to drop down. I got to jump to a meeting. But yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no doubt. Captain Cisco said, Bernard Riley, did you vote for Stacey Abrams? I don't know who told you I was in Atlanta. You got to ask that that's a question for Black Gen Z. Abrams was on the ballot for you, wasn't she?
Yes, she was. I absolutely did not vote for Stacey Abrams. I voted for Governor Kemp. I've actually met Governor Kemp in person. He went to school with my father, and he is a UGA alum. So I went with the dogs on this one.
So you voted for Kemp, but what about his record on suppressing the black vote?
That's bullshit.
Explain.
I mean, it's bullshit. They're trying to say, oh well, you know, black people haven't been able to vote, and they're doing this voter ID thing. But the voter ID is not about black people. It's actually about illegal immigrants. It's actually about people who are coming into this country They don't have IDs. They and they're voting in elections, and they're being given the right to vote in elections because they're saying, oh, well, you shouldn't have to require an ID to vote. And my question is, why not? See, the voter ID thing is all about making it seem like Black people can't afford getting IDs. They don't know where the DMV is. It's basically, making it seem like we're just like, children who can't, put on our left or right shoe on the right foot. So I think that whole voter suppression movement is, really condescending toward the Black community. And, it's complete bullshit.
Yeah, agreed. Those are things that I would hear, and this goes back when I was back when I used to vote Democrat. I would hear them saying stuff, and then I would be like, it would sound right. Okay, they're trying to suppress the Black vote. Okay, but wait a minute. If they're trying to suppress the Black vote by just saying that you must have an ID in order to vote, then
I say that sounds fair to me.
I got an ID. Who don't? I'm trying to think. Who do I know that don't got an ID? Who are these people walking around without ID? And those people that's walking around without IDs, they don't got IDs. By all means, go get a goddamn ID.
Yeah.
It was stuff like that I just wasn't. It was a lot of round pegs. I couldn't get through a square hole or something. I just couldn't figure it out. What are they talking about here?
Right. The only suppression of the Black vote is coming from Black people themselves. I mean, it has everything to do with our voter turnout. It doesn't have to do with you get to the polls and then they turning you away.
Yeah. So
I wanted to hear some people who, to join the panel who had some disagreements with me.
Yeah, for some reason, no, I tell when the disagreements ain't coming today. I already know. I could tell from the chat room vibe that no disagreements are coming up. I could already tell. I know we're gonna get some disagreements. I know.
They say nothing about Gen Z women.
What you say?
Oh yeah, I mean,
we didn't talk about Gen Z women. That's why you get no disagreements.
Right.
Yeah, we'll go ahead. Yeah, we can talk about that. We're about to get up out of here real soon, but I guess that's something we can get. You can give your take on. Give your take on Gen Z women. What's up with that?
Are we talking about all women of all races?
Let's go on and go there. Go on black women, Gen Z Black women.
Okay, so gotta preface this with I love Black women. My mama Black and auntie Black and grandma Black, all this type of stuff. But I do think that there are some glaring issues when it comes to younger women, specifically Gen Z women. There is a romanticization, if you will, of the street dudes, which is not a new phenomenon and whatnot. And I think that even more now, it's even more pronounced. As a matter of fact, you can do a quick Google search and just simply type in scammer, drug dealer, or 9-to-5. And you'll see that the majority of the Black women asked if they would rather have a scammer, drug dealer, or 9-to-5. They pick scammers and drug dealers over 9-to-5 men. So that's a huge issue for me. And that just shows a lack of overall ethics and morality within, some certain sisters. So I think it's very difficult for Black men who, have their head on straight to date the new flock of women that we are given and told that if you don't date them, you hate everything about yourself. And a lot of them, unfortunately, this is not all, I'm not saying all, but a lot of them are just completely undateable. You can't do nothing with them. You can't tell them nothing. You can't ask them to do anything for them. You can't say, hey, go grab me a glass of water. Hey, it'd be nice if you made a meal for me tonight. Hey, this, that, and third. You can't tell them anything. You can't tell them shit. So, and this is, I don't think that this is like exclusive to Black women in general when it comes to, trying to give a woman direction. But I think it is more pervasive and it's a more glaring issue in the Black community than any other race, because, and you could say, oh, well, there's a lack of good Black men and all this kind of stuff. And yeah, I mean, I can entertain that line of thought as well. But if you look at the types of guys that these women are reproducing with, the types of guys that these women are choosing, a lot of them, you know, they don't have shit about themselves, and it shows. And it's a huge issue that you can address, because if you do address, then you hate yourself and all that kind of stuff. So it's hard to date in the community. I personally did not date outside of my race until I was about 23 years old. And then once I made that decision that, hey, I'm not just going to, once I'm not going to limit myself just to women of my own race, then, you know, floodgates opened up. I was able to find a girlfriend who I could actually take seriously. And so, yeah, I'm currently IR dating, and, you know, I'm not ashamed of it. I have no problems with it. And I encourage other men to do the same. Other Black men.
All right. I didn't know where this was going to go, but it went there. It went all the way there.
Right.
Your girl, she white, Hispanic, Latina, Asian?
She's white. She's white.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
You in ATL, the home of the Black woman, and you got your woman.
Oh man, I mean, in ATL, shit, they're worse. I would rather go like to a country area and, you know, get me like a little country Black girl. But obviously my location proximity it's just not going to work out. I don't believe in long distance relationships, so my girl has to be within like 20 minutes of me for me to even take her seriously. But yeah, and ATL is bad. It's really bad. You know,
when you said you encourage brothers to do the same, there's a distinction here. Do you encourage brothers to not date Black women, or to just open all possible options up?
I would say don't limit yourself to just one demographic.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily don't date Black women at all. You know, I wouldn't say that, because I would still be, you know, if this thing don't work out, which it's working out pretty well, but I would still be open to dating women outside my race, but the issue, or inside my race. But the issue is, it really is bad in Atlanta. You know, a lot of these girls, they've been around, and if they're a really beautiful woman, which, you know, we all like beautiful women, right? If you want a really beautiful woman, I would say 7, 8, 9, or 10, then chances are, if she's in the city of Atlanta, she's probably most likely, not all, but most likely ran through. And that's just something that I'm not willing to accept. I'm not willing to accept a high body count from a woman that I'm going to take seriously at all. And if you go to Atlanta and you're trying to find a sister specifically, from my experience, and I've dated a lot of Black women in Atlanta, you know, between the age ranges of 18 and, I mean, I've even dated older than myself, up to like 35. And, you know, a lot of them, they just been around the block way too many times. You know, it's fine to kick it with and cool with, and we could be friends, and, you know, friends with benefit, all that kind of stuff and whatnot. But I'm going to be very precautious into committing to a woman like that. And if I'm not mistaken, the average age of women in Atlanta losing their virginity is between like 13, 14 years old. So when I do date, yeah, it's absolutely insane. Yeah. So when I do dating, I use a body count formula. So I take the woman's age, I subtract it by the time she started having sex, and I won't necessarily ask that. I'll just, you know, usually give them the benefit of the doubt and say 18, and I'll take her age, I'll subtract that by 18, and then according to the CDC, a woman has between 3 to 7 sexual partners a year. So then I'll multiply that number that I get from that subtraction that I do, and then, you know, come up with an estimate. Then we'll get into conversation, and during the the date or whatever. I ask her a little bit about, why past relationships didn't work. And then they open the floodgates and confirm my theory. So, it really is hard, especially if you're a guy like me who.
How high is too high, man?
10 is too high. 10 is too high.
Based off the data that you just gave, you got to start dating 17-year-olds then. Nah. So, like I said, that's why I opened up my horizons to women outside of my race, because, quite frankly, there's just a different cultural element. And I'm not saying that there ain't white chicks who've been ran through. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying there ain't Indian chicks who've been ran through, whatnot. But dating outside of my race, I've actually met a whole host of versions. And they were a lot more conservative in their outlook, in their demeanor on life. And, that's something that I value. Not every man values that, but, I think that, all of us men are definitely interested, to say the least, in the woman that we're going to take seriously's past. Yeah, no, good stuff. Yeah, that probably should have been. Well, I did want to get a general view of Gen Z stuff, but that'd probably been. If we do this again, that'd be the title. That'd be the title. But I'm make it about Gen Z women. Yeah.
I'd love to come on here and talk about dating.
Gen Z men. Black Gen Z men experience with Black Gen Z women. That's right.
I don't date anybody under 26 because I say the oldest kids the kids that I first taught, they're that old now, and I know what's out there. I wouldn't dare go under 26.
Yeah. But, I mean, even at 26, according to the body count formula, she's donezo.
Oh.
You got a body count formula. That's funny, man. You're the second person I talked to who had a formula for that shit.
Oh yeah, and it's extremely accurate. I've been on multiple dating and relationship podcasts, and with panels of women, we go around and do the body count formula test on them, and it is very accurate. I would say plus or minus 3.
Well, but all right, we over 2 hours. I only wanted to do 2 hours in this joint so I can get out of here, have time to go vote. So again, Gen Z Mindset, gotta thank you very much for coming on the show. Y'all make sure y'all go and subscribe to this brother. Very intelligent, broke a lot of things down. Oh yeah, there's a link to his channel right there. Thank you, the standard RLC for coming on up. Thank you everybody in the building. Appreciate each and every one of you. And with that said, we are out of here. Peace. We gone.
Gang violence and other kind of violence.
Guess what? I could be at work, at school, in my car, and I can still get shot by the police. I can get shot anywhere.
So it is what it is.